Okay, so how do we improve the graduation rates for all students in the building, but primarily our young men of color? We have to create a culture of care. We have to create an environment, and we talked about culture in the last video. We have to create an environment in the school that says every kid is valued, every kid is important, their voice matters, every kid is loved, every kid is welcome. So many districts are going back into school because of this pandemic is coming. I won't say coming to a close, but I think people are saying our kids need to be back in school. And there's several urban districts that are now saying we have to create reentry plans and we have to get our kids back into the building, which is very, very important, right? Like, kids need to be in the building. They need to be in school. They need to be receiving in-person instruction, in-person education. That is critical for the success of Black and brown children. Now, I am not going to address how do you sanitize a building, how do you keep people 6 feet apart, how do you make sure kids wear their masks. I feel like schools have enough information on, and we've seen it enough. I mean, we all go to the supermarkets, we all go to the gyms, we all go to all these different places. So we know exactly how to wear a mask, how to keep people 6 feet apart, how to sanitize a building, how to have hand sanitizer. I'm not going to address that. What I'm going to say is we have to assure that when the kids are coming back into the building. Now think about this. I read a stat that said 65% of Black and brown families have stated at this point that they do not have enough money to put food on the table. The statistics have demonstrated that Black families have been hit with COVID harder than any other population in the country. We also know that the crime rate has gone up. The abuse has gone up. So if we have Black and brown children coming into the school and we know that they have been impacted by job loss, impacted by untimely deaths, impacted by not having enough resources for food, impacted by the stress of, are we going to have a home tomorrow because mama and daddy lost their job and they don't know if they can pay the rent. All of these stressors, our young people are coming into the building when we decide to open up the building again. The question is, how are we going to set the tone to assure that we are creating a safe, caring, loving environment so that they can be successful? Number one, this is key, school leaders. Number one, you have to set the tone by when your babies, when your children, the children that you oversee, the children that you're responsible for, they walk into the building, they have to feel like superstars. They have to feel like, we couldn't wait to see you. We couldn't wait to have you here. We're so excited to see you. I have on my Facebook page, on my social media, what I would do when kids would walk into the building for the first day. We would have the cheerleaders and the football players and teachers. We'd have an aisle, and it would go all the way. It would stretch all the way to the school. We had one entrance, and when the kids walked in, we had music playing, clapping for them, making them feel excited, making them feel like they're superstars, making them feel like they're wonderful. We have to create a culture to say, we love you, we care, and we're so excited that you're here. So as you're getting open, as you're doing your reentry plans, as you're doing your come back to school plans, your reentry plan has to address making kids feel like they are loved and making school feel like it's a special place for them. That's going to be key. That is going to be so important as you are bringing kids back into the building. So, leaders, think about that. It's a small investment. It's a very small investment, but it has to be done. Another thing you may want to do is post the kids' pictures around the building. If you have old yearbook pictures, if you have anything, post the kids' pictures around the building. Let them know that, hey, we're thinking about you. We care about you. You are important and special to us. That is going to be something that is going to be key. So we talk about making a culture and creating a culture where young people are going to feel successful. And I've said this enough. You have to know your theoretical framework. The theoretical framework or the theory of action that I come from is culturally proficient leadership. Now, there are a few tenets in culturally proficient leadership. There is assessing the culture. There is valuing diversity. There is manage the dynamics of difference. There is institutionalized culture of knowledge. The institutionalized of cultural knowledge means simply you want to partner with local universities or professionals that are leaders in diversity and cultural wellness. Review curriculum for the culturally relevant content and make sure that you're bringing that to the table. So when you institutionalize cultural knowledge is we want to make sure that we're providing content for the young people in the building. Next one is adapt to diversity. Ensure that the teaching strategies and curriculum content are culturally relevant. So when we're creating a culture of care, we want to make sure that we're creating curriculum that allows the kids to see themselves in the curriculum. Manage the dynamics of difference. This is going to be a big one. This simply means having courageous conversations with staff, teachers, and community members about race. Folks, we have to have those hard conversations. We can't just assume that if a kid is in poverty and they're black and brown, that they got COVID. We just can't make an assumption that if a kid is black and brown and they come into your room, their father isn't in their life. So we have to have those conversations. And we have to have room for other people's culture and other people's way of doing things. Value diversity. I say this all the time. Diversity should not be tolerated. It should be celebrated. Create curriculum that allows for black and brown and other students from different cultures to see themselves in the literature. Assess the culture. Create district-wide surveys for staff, parents, and students in order to assess the culture. So you have to know the culture of the students that are walking into your building. So we create a culture of care. We create a culture of we care about you. If you're looking at using a culturally proficient leadership model, that is the 5 tenets that you want to use. Okay? So another thing, principles that you want to make sure that you're looking at, which this is huge. And I think principals and leaders and superintendents, I think we have an issue with this. I used to work in corporate, and they would say, take care of your customers and your employees, and profits will follow. I always had an issue with that because I always felt like what we have to do first is to take care of our employees and our customers, and profits will follow. Right? You have to take care of your employees because your employees takes care of your customers. So important that when we talk about celebrating young people as they come in the building, that celebration also needs to happen for your teachers. Teachers are doing courageous work right now. They are literally putting their lives at risk by going into a classroom in close proximity with young people. And they're not doing it just to keep a job. They're doing it because they love children. They care about children. They care about the population. They care about the kids they serve. Teachers are doing some courageous work. Now, are there some bad apples? Yes, but there are bad apples in everything. So teachers are doing courageous work. Principals, you have to make sure your teachers feel like superstars. The research says school principals have a direct impact on teachers and an indirect impact on student achievement. That comes from Leithwood, 2008. Principals, how you treat teachers will in turn how they will treat their students. So it's going to be so important, principals, as we're talking about bringing kids back into the building. We're talking about creating a culture of care to create success. It's so important that you are touching base with your teachers and letting them know that you appreciate all the work they're doing and all of everything they bring to the table. So according to another research, it said, another article, Schatzer said, successful schools are those where teachers have positive attitudes towards students. Students' learning is the major focus, and academic achievement is expected for all students. Successful schools are those where teachers have positive attitudes towards students. A teacher can't have a positive attitude if the principal and administrative team is negative. It's very difficult. They're fighting upstream. So it's so important, principals, that you create a culture where teachers feel welcome, where teachers feel loved, where teachers feel cared for, where the teachers say, man, I love going to my school. Man, I'm so excited. Even in a pandemic, I'm excited about going to school. I'm excited about to educating kids. I'm excited for their success. That has to be the thought process when teachers are walking into this building. So when leaders are culturally proficient, they do more than advocate for another culture. They understand the culture and celebrate it from a leadership perspective. Comes from Khalifa in 2016. When leaders are culturally proficient, they do more than advocate for another culture. They understand the culture and celebrate it from a leadership perspective. So leaders, we talk about creating a culture of care. It first must start with creating a culture of care for the teachers. Creating a place where the teachers feel welcome and they feel loved, they feel cared for, and then that atmosphere then translates to the students. So that's going to be key as we are coming back into the school. So here's a few things that principals you can do for your teachers. Number one, make sure that you find time to have teacher breakfasts. Something I did and something that I was a part in. You want to make sure that you find the fundraising or find the money to have a teacher breakfast. Just let them know that they're appreciated, that you care about them. Another thing that I found to be very, very useful is Teacher of the Month. Have a Teacher of the Month program. Have the kids nominate who their Teacher of the Month is. And then as they nominate their Teacher of the Month, make it a big deal. Announce that teacher over the loudspeaker. Give that teacher a parking space. Give that teacher, an applaud. I would walk in with the cheerleaders after the Teacher of the Month was found. We would go in there with the camera crew, with the cheerleaders. We would do a whole celebration for the teachers to let them know that they are valued, important, and special. How often do you get that type of applaud and that type of love in the job, any job, except if you're an athlete, right? Positive feedback. Principals, it is so important that you continually provide positive feedback to your teachers. It is so important that you provide feedback that is, this is what I notice you doing. I observe you doing this. Let them know what you are looking for. Give them little notes and say, I saw you do this, and this is what I thought was awesome. Another thing we would do when I was a principal, we'd have Shout Out Thursday, where everybody was looking for somebody doing something good, and they would write an anonymous note and bring it down to the main office. And when we did our final announcements, we would shout them out and say, this is what we saw this person doing. And lastly, you want to have clear directives for teachers. The directive should be clear, the expectations should be clear, and then it should be followed up with high energy and high praise.